Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us Sitaram Yechuri, probably the most articulate voice on the left of the Indian politics, who will discuss with us all that is going on in Parliament, the logjam over a whole lot of economic bills and other reforms. Welcome to our show, Sitaram, and please tell us what is going on in Parliament. What is your sense? If the Indians are watching Parliament proceedings very carefully this time.
It's very ironic in the sense that we are all very busy to make sure that the Parliament doesn't work. that is what is happening. It's most unfortunate. We want the Parliament to do its job, which we think is very crucial to the functioning of our constitutional scheme of things.
Yeah, sure.
Because ultimately in our country, the Constitution gives the sovereignty to the people. Yeah. We begin the Constitution by saying we the people. Yeah. And that is exercised through the elected representatives of the people, that is the Parliament, to whom the government is accountable, who in turn are accountable to the people. Now this whole scheme breaks down if the Parliament just doesn't function.
Why is it breaking down? Now I see, Sita, even foreign rating agencies have started putting legislative paralysis as part of their analysis about India. So even the world is looking at our legislature in a slightly poor light.
Yeah, their concern has an additional aspect as well. I mean, while our concern is about our political structure, our country, our people, their concern is that the reforms are not taking place.
Yeah.
And they are keen on the reforms because of the global situation.
And they look at India as a big market.
And because of the global situation, double dip the recession in the EU.
And they want India and China to drive world growth.
Exactly. Yeah. And with the US standing on the fiscal cliff, I mean, what is likely to happen this year is going to be very negative for the world.
Sure, yeah.
So they're looking at India as a huge potential big market to enter. Yeah. And they need these legislations for giving them the legal right to enter.
Okay, yeah.
So that is their worry. On the contrary, our worry is that by doing this, we may be permitting foreign capital to come in to expand and maximize their profits.
Yeah.
But in the bargain, we may be the losers while they may be the gainers. So we'll have to strike that balance, you see. I know the global economy is in a tailspin. The more insulated we are from it, the better for us.
Okay. At this moment?
At this moment. So protect ourselves, concentrate on your domestic, the growth of your domestic demand, which has got a big potential in our country. And then kickstart our economy, which is in a very bad state according to the finance minister yesterday. Sure. He said third quarter of decline in GDP.
Yeah, industrial growth is virtually, manufacturing growth is zero.
Zero, literally.
See, tell me, it's very interesting because if I'm not mistaken, CPM had formally taken a call some years ago, somewhat easing its traditional stance on foreign capital. Now CPM does not believe that, as it did earlier, in a very rigid way, that foreign capital has imperialist designs, etc. Now, bulk of the capital now is our own money probably coming back. So there's a different view of foreign capital, right?
No, yes, it is. In fact, I mean, we revised our view, and I think we did it more than a decade ago. And where we had our governments, I mean, we were welcoming foreign capital, but we always ensured that they should satisfy three conditions. One is that the foreign capital that comes in must augment our productive capacities.
And should be inclusive in its...
And secondly, increase employment. Thirdly, upgrade us technologically. If these three conditions are met, then foreign capital is most welcome and it should be mutually beneficial.
Now coming back to this FDI in retail, Sita, for a moment, if you just forget about the foreign investment aspect of it, do you believe as a left articulator of left ideology, that big retailers coming into this space at one level will also, I'm talking about domestic retailers, for a moment you forget foreign capital, because domestic retailers are already there. There is a certain creative destruction of existing vested interests, because the farmers that I have spoken to, they say that 20% of their produce really goes towards wasting, no, not waste. 20% of the produce actually goes towards paying the middlemen, the artiyas, who are in some form or the other. And so there is this dynamic where the farmer in India today gets just 1/3 of the final price that the consumer pays, whereas he should get at least 60%. which has been proved in the Amul experiment, for instance, where there is no foreign capital, but a cooperative experiment where farmers are directly sort of dealt with, have got 60% of the price that the consumer pays. So how do you look at this aspect?
You see, the Amul model and the Amul pattern would be much more suitable to India than getting in your large multinational chains. Now, there's a difference between multinational chains and the domestic chains.
Yeah, sure. What is the difference there?
The main difference is multinational chains access their products globally. Okay. Now, if bananas are cheaper in Brazil, let's say, so you will get your Brazilian bananas sold in India. Okay. It's not the Indian banana producer who's going to benefit. I mean, like you today, when it's most ironic, you walk through the walk on the mall in Shimla, you'll find Australian and New Zealand apples. Yeah. Well, Himachal produces some of the finest apples in our country. Yeah. You know, so the point is that this is happening without these retail chains coming. Just imagine what would happen there. In the domestic thing, because of the accessing domestic products.
So you can be sure that the domestic resources will be harnessed.
And even there, certain safeguards are required. You see, you look at Walmart, for instance. Well, the chocolate bar that they sell, international surveys have shown that the cocoa grower in Ghana gets only 5.9% of the total value or the price at which the bar is sold. Okay. So even there's a huge retail margin. There's a huge retail. The fellow who produces jeans in all the sweatshops in Southeast Asia, he gets 12% of the total value of the jean. So now these retail margins are a problem. I mean, anyway, in whichever context, and that is something which we'll have to tackle through other
retail and wholesale margins.
Wholesale margins. I mean, this trade.
You do admit that it's a problem.
It's a problem.
Which that farmer needs to get more.
Absolutely.
And
what the way to overcome that is to have a certain public chain of cold storages. One or two started by the private company have been so successful in places like Himachal, etc. Off-season vegetables.
So you're saying public sector should invest in these infrastructure?
Absolutely. Okay. And just look at the world. I mean, no country, whether it's the People's Republic of China or the US of A, has the infrastructure been built by private capital. Private capital comes in to complement, but the basic thing has to be laid down by the state.
But Sita, in China, for instance, China has used Walmart brilliantly. Today, Walmart, 60% of its global product sales come from China. So China is actually riding on Walmart, and Walmart has tied up with 30,000 small and medium enterprises in China who actually supply to Walmart. Are you saying that that model is not possible in India, that India cannot, say, exploit a Walmart or a Carrefour or a foreign to its advantage by building its small and medium enterprises?
Yeah, that stage has not come yet.
Okay, you feel that stage is not?
It's not yet come. Just remember that China allowed these big chains to come in after 24 years of an average 10% growth annually. Now that's, just imagine the volume of transactions that was growing in the economy. 24 years.
Actually, Walmart entered China about 15 years ago.
15 years ago. That's
and today they have only 5% share of the total Chinese retail market, and there are 4 Chinese retail companies who are bigger than Walmart.
Yeah, and therefore, what's happened is with the massive growth in the Chinese economy, you had the volume of trading grew phenomenally, which the traditional structures could not handle.
So we'll take a small break here and come back. Please don't go away and keep watching RSTV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are having a conversation with Mr. Sitaram Yechuri, a member of CPM's Politburo. Sita, we were discussing the big retail, foreign retail chains in the context of China, and you said that China has managed them in a very systematic way. We are probably not in a situation today, given our governance structures. Is that your point?
Not only governance structures, our state of the economy.
Our state of the economy also. But do you, would you say that am I correct in saying that you and BJP in Parliament are on the same side on this. You sort of vote, but BJP for different reasons. You for different reasons.
Absolutely. I mean,
because BJP is for traders. It's for small traders who are the backbone.
Yeah, our reasons are different. I mean, entirely different in the sense we are saying that at this stage of our economy, where next to agriculture, maybe manufacturing, the retail sector is the source of the largest employment. More than 4 crores of our people work directly, which means with their families, 1/5 of our country's population. Now, displacing them immediately would be a problem unless it will be a massive problem. Secondly, what we have seen is these big chains, the employment rate of employment there is nearly 1/4 of what your traditional mom and dad shops require for the same volume. If 12 people are required in these shops, retail shops, 3 are sufficient in a big retail chain. So your employment potential also declines. Now we are not in a stage to take that sort of a blow, where our manufacturing is, as we discussed, is virtually zero, the growth rate. Exports are declining naturally because of the global situation. At that stage, for us, unless we are able to revive our economy on the basis of domestic demand, and people find new employment, this sort of a thing will only help foreign capital, but not us.
But the argument here, Sita, is, again, for a moment, if you keep foreign capital aside, the counter argument to what you just said is that India's 5-6 big business houses are in retail business for the last, say, 6-7 years. And they have not been able to displace the small mom and pop shops. In fact, on the contrary, evidence shows in the last 6-7 years, mom and pop shops have actually grown. Now, how do you look at that? No,
that is why I say they differentiate between foreign and domestic. Because the domestic, their source is domestic. Okay. You see, because their source is domestic, they come in a different plane altogether. Secondly, the point is that with the growth of middle class incomes, the volume of trading is also growing. You have the big malls that have come up in all your metros. And then you will have these retail shops, but it's begun to affect. If you look at Bombay, where some of these big chains have come, around that area, about 500-600 of these small shops, they've all closed down. So it's begun to affect. Okay, but that pace and that degree of displacement and that degree of absorption, maybe the economy can do it. But a large-scale displacement right now would be disastrous for our people.
Is there sometimes I get the sense that our political class and also our intellectual class, by and large, on the left, also on the right, there seems to be a congruence. They are very fearful of creative destruction, Schumpeter, because if society has to progress, even if you take the Marxist process of materialist progression, creative destruction is a necessity, in some sense. So, is there a fear that creative destruction will lead to...
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, the Marxist position is extremely clear. Technology will lead to development. In the process of the development, the old is destroyed, the new is created. Yeah. But in this process, always, you see, the historical movement is always in a loop.
Okay.
But if you restrict, you create a situation where instead of a loop, you're just going around in circles.
Okay.
Then that's not the Marxist concept of development. So you just get on to a higher level. Create alternate employment opportunities for which, there is no dearth of resources in our country. All that you have to do is focus on.
So you're saying that our reforms have not taken us to a higher plateau of development. That's what you're saying.
And because why I'm saying is that you see, for some people it's been extremely good. For some it's been disastrous. There are 2 Indias in the making. Today everybody recognizes. When we started saying this about 6 years ago, people thought we are alarmists and, as usual, leftists, etc. But now everybody recognizes it. So for one level it has been good, for the other level it's been bad. So net result is that you're moving in a circle. And most ironically, the Prime Minister has to say that he remembers 1991, 20 years after the reforms, that Indian economy is reaching that situation.
But Sita, isn't it also true that you were with UPA 1 and you participated in UPA's social welfare policy initiatives, big ones like Narega, etc., where left has had a contribution. And during this big growth period, say 1992 to say 2008, before the global crisis, evidence shows that, for instance, centrally sponsored schemes, Manish Shankar here keeps quoting this figure, 8,000 crores used to be given through centrally sponsored schemes in 1996. Today, that figure is 2,37,000 crore. It is more than 25 times, which includes Narega, health schemes, education. Now, this nearly 30 times increase, don't you think this is also has come partly from the growth process, higher revenues for the government, even if the left feels it is inadequate? But
yeah. No, but remember, like you rightly said, that we were part of the pushing for these things. Yeah. And in fact, I think we have been vindicated. Yeah. Because you see, these expenditures is what expanded your domestic demand. And the moment domestic demand expanded, on that basis, manufacturing industry, the whole circle happens. Now, that is why instead of decrying these expenditures and saying high fiscal deficit, so cut down on subsidies, cut down on these expenditures, which is the current fashion. That would be disastrous.
But some of the bills that the government is bringing, like right to education or food security bill, the left should actually allow Parliament to just take up that first.
We want it refined and we want to improve it further. It's not
but then Parliament is getting stuck on the FDI in retail to the exclusion of all other important bills.
That is the tragedy. The last session was a washout. The winter session last year was a washout. That was a washout because the government first didn't agree to a JPC in the 2G scam. Yeah. Finally, it agreed. If it had agreed in the session earlier, then we wouldn't have lost all that time. Now, this is the tragedy that is happening, and therefore, what we are also appealing, tomorrow is the all-party meeting. So, what we are appealing to the government is that you break this logjam, have this discussion. This vote is not going to determine the future of the government, and if they win...
But there is a sense that they will win the vote.
Exactly. No.
If Mulayam Singh and Mayawati abstain...
They'll win the vote. Yeah. If they win the vote, it's an endorsement for them, no? Yeah, sure. Why are they shirking away from this? I don't understand.
Okay, so you're suggesting that they can just win the vote and then proceed with other business?
The other business. Win the vote and then they have the full authority before the country to say the elected parliament has given it the mandate.
So why is the government reluctant to have a 184 discussion?
Exactly what puzzles me.
What is your sense? You are talking to the government.
If I was on the other side, I would have pounced at this opportunity, gone to the people and say, look at this. We are doing everything on the basis of the agreed mandate of the elected parliament. I don't know if there are other things that they don't want to allow to come, because last time it was a match fixing between BJP and the Congress, because Colgate neither wanted a discussion. Because both will be exposed,
Some breakthrough will come? Or?
I'm hoping for it. We are working for it, because once the SP and the BSP have made their position clear.
Yeah. They have made the position clear, right?
So once they've done that, then I don't see any problem at all.
Do you think that some of the other bills, economic bills, for which the finance minister has sought your cooperation, everybody's cooperation, would go through the pension bill and I think on insurance there is a climb down. They are not, it seems now, not moving for 49% foreign investment. They are content with staying at 26%. But given that, is there a meeting point?
You see, the point is that pension funds, we are opposed to it, because we are opposed to the principle of treating this as a voluntary benefit. Okay. Pension is always been, it's part of capitalism history. Yeah. The pension has always been a statutory right of a worker.
But what is wrong with giving a choice, Sita? No. Suppose somebody wants say 5% of his money to be in the market with a limit. Why not give a choice?
If it's only 5%, no. Now the point is what they're doing, 26% FDI in pension funds. Okay. Now with the world market in the crisis, with that US fiscal cliff, EU double-dip depression, any tumbling in the global market is likely to happen. If not tumbling, there's going to be wide fluctuation.
Volatility is we are living with volatility.
We are living in volatility. At that stage, to expose the lifelong earnings of your worker to that volatility, I don't think that's a very...
I'll come to this point, but after a small break, please don't go away and keep watching Rajya Sabha television. Welcome back to State of the Economy. we are having a very interesting discussion on certain key reforms in Parliament with Mr. Sitaram Yechuri of CPM. Sita, you said something very interesting. I have spoken to the BJP leaders, Yashwant Sinha, Chairman of Parliamentary Standing Committee. He also tells me that BJP has also taken a now fundamentally different position on financial sector reforms. They felt in a certain way before the global economic crisis, financial crisis. Now they feel differently for the reasons that you cited. And in fact, Yashwant Sinha was at pains to tell me that BJP's position is not tactical. It's not as if after they come to power in 2014, they'll change and they'll allow foreign insurance companies much higher limit. Now, you and BJP, to me, it seems on financial sector reforms are on the same side. In fact, in the Parliamentary Standing Committee, I noticed that even parties like Biju Janata Dal feel the same way. So, does that give you the impression that on financial sector reforms, there is a bigger consensus emerging which says that you should go slow in globalizing your financial sector?
It looks like, because, and I hope Mr. Yashwant Sinha's opinion is the BJP's opinion. Okay. I would, because you see, any sensible person, given the world economy state today, will definitely will not see these reforms as beneficial for India. In fact, they'll be very regressive. And let me tell you, an interesting incident, both Mr. Yashwant Sinha and I were there at the same conference and seminar giving lectures at the Stanford University.
In fact, Mr. Sinha mentioned Stanford to me. Yeah. In fact, there people say that you're talking like the left.
That is all. And my keynote address was at lunch. His was at dinner. And he ended his keynote address saying that I'm sorry for sounding like Comrade Sitaram Yechuri. After he spoke. And he was talking in the same lines, saying that in today's world situation, financial liberalization is not in India's interest, and which is absolutely valid. And therefore, whether it is a tactical move or not, Mr. Sinha may be seeing it from the global economy's perspective. But others in the BJP, because they are in the opposition, they have to oppose them, and that I don't know. But the point is, anybody sensible today would say, do not commit harakiri by going in for financial liberalization now, till at least the world situation stabilizes.
Take your point in regard to foreign capital coming into our financial sector in a big way. If you just forget that for a moment, would you be open to our own banking sector expanding, more competition in the banking sector with domestic banks, more players in the domestic banking sector coming, and trying to expand access to farmers and
Absolutely.
That you would be open to?
Open to, and in fact we are very critical of the government why it is actually cutting back on its rural banking schemes. I mean, there is a massive cutback on the expansion of the...
But now the RBI's new line is that rural banking has become commercially viable on its own. It should not be described as directed lending anymore.
No, but that is the biggest danger. That is where all your microfinance companies have come in, and they are creating disaster in your rural areas. In the name of microfinance, you're back to your old usurious money lender business.
But don't microfinance lend at far lower rates than the traditional money lender?
No, that is where the problem is coming. The actual ground reality in many areas, you have suicides now beginning. Those who have taken these microfinance loans, and this is a very dangerous thing. So what is required is the state support is necessary for the poor people's savings to be collated. And if you leave it to the private sector, and if you leave it to the NGO sector or whatever it is bound to degenerate back into that usurious money lender position.
So which are the bills which do you think which consensus is actually building?
Well, one is the Lokpal, on which a large amount of consensus has been arrived at by the Select Committee. And of course, there is one patent amendment by the left, which we will move. That is to include private sector.
That they should also be brought into the Lokpal.
I mean, all those who have received tenders and licenses, etc., on whom there are charges. saying that this has been given out of crony capitalist method.
Or in public-private partnerships.
I mean, these things should also come under the ambit, because you cannot tackle the demand side of corruption and forget the supply side. So this will have to be done. That will move. I don't think we can get that.
Insurance and banking legislation?
Insurance and banking legislation, if the government is rethinking on it, then it's very...
For instance, there's one amendment which probably left will not have any objection to, because it gives RBI more powers to supersede the board of a private bank in the event of a misdemeanor. Now that's correct. That should be okay with the left, is it?
I mean, that is in the spirit of your nationalization.
No regulation.
I mean, so but there are other bills like the food security, land acquisition. No, these are important legislations. I mean, food security.
CPM would support these.
No, with our refinements to improve it further. For food security, land acquisition, and Lokpal. And these are very important bills for the country's future, and they'll require proper consideration.
So, in your hierarchy of importance, Lokpal, food security, land acquisition.
Land acquisition
would be uppermost.
Uppermost. Plus, and we would want, there are no bills involved in it, but we want a proper structured discussion on the state of the economy, and try to impress upon the government to stop give up that their existing theory that greater flow of foreign investments will automatically lead to growth, because that investments will be invested and growth will happen. The biggest flaw in that is that investments may produce things, but people don't have the money to buy them. You have to increase your domestic demand, shift your diagnosis wrong, shift your priorities, and instead of giving your tax concessions in the name of incentives, use the tax consent, use that collect that money and use it for public investments.
Public investment.
Create employment, build our infrastructure. And I think that is the way. What India needs today is virtually a new deal.
Okay.
That is what the Indian economy needs.
Thank you very much for talking to us, Mr. Sitaram Yechuri. And that's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back soon with another one. Thank you.